And a very good afternoon. It's Tuesday afternoon, 12 noon Eastern Time, coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. And no matter what time zone you happen to be in, whatever you're up to right now, I hope you're listening to the show and enjoying it because we have a lot to talk about today. Baseball, we're going to talk about some futures as far as some futures are concerned in baseball, futures betting. And of course, we're going to give you some tips and ideas on National Hockey League betting as well, because, well, we got some time now to talk about things like that now that the draft is over and center of attention right now is on baseball. And of course, once we cover that, we have some time to talk about other things as well. So welcome to the show. We are coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Also podcasting on most of your major podcasts, such as Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, you name it, we are there for you to listen any time of the day or night. So we're going to talk about baseball. Like I said, we're going to have 3 games on tap for today that our little system has been kind of working with. We're going to look at the Cubs against Cincinnati, the Braves against the Nats, and the Rangers against the Twins. Those are the 3 games that we're going to take a closer look at. We're going to check the line movement on those games, try to determine which direction the pros are going so that, just in case one of these 3 games is a game that you were looking to bet on, it'll help you perhaps make a decision in the right direction. And of course, that is the basic idea of the show, was here to make a better handicapper out of you. So that's the story with that. We're also going to talk about, like I said, futures betting as far as baseball is concerned, give you some thoughts and ideas and tips on a couple of futures bets that we kind of like over here. And also, we're going to talk about the National Hockey League and little tip on how not to chase injuries. We'll be talking about that as well. So once again, welcome to the show. We're live right here, the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. But as usual, the first thing we do, if you're a new listener to the show, the first thing we do is we look and see what happened yesterday as far as the major sports were concerned, kind of take a look and see how the favorites are doing against the underdogs and vice versa. So to start with, looking at the National Hockey League, the favorites, as usual, all season long, favorites have been really killing them there in the National Hockey League. Yesterday, no exception, 8-6 with upsets by the Sabres, who are a plus 210 on the money line. The Flyers are a plus 150. Senators are plus 130. Canadians are plus 145. The Wild are plus 105. And the Kings at a plus 135. Those were the dogs that came in one of the 6 of the 8 as well. So the overs went 9-5 yesterday, but the unders, they're still leading. They're at almost 51% for the season. Now, looking at the first period overs, they went 8-6 as well yesterday, but the unders still lead at little over 51%. So that's the National Hockey League. Favorites are still king. They've been dominating the league all season long. We'll be talking about the National Hockey League later, try to give you some thoughts and ideas and some help in making your selections as well if you're into hockey. Now, meanwhile, the NBA, the favorites and the dogs, they kind of split it right down the middle, 4-4 straight up and against the spreads. You had upsets by the Lakers, who are 4-point dogs against the Nuggets. The Knicks, a 4-point dog against the Grizzlies. The Warriors, a 2-point dog against the Pelicans. And the Magic, a 2-point dog against the Pistons. So far, the favorites still lead 482 to 465 with 12 pushes against the spread. That's almost at 51%. Now, the unders went 4-3-1 yesterday. You also had a push yesterday on the Portland-Atlanta game, 237. The overs had 485 to 479. They're at 50.3%. So those are the totals as far as the NBA is concerned. Favorites still have a slight lead, although the dogs are, right in that same particular area. When it's that close going either way, that's very difficult to pick winners on situations like that. So we've talked about that before. We talked about it yesterday. And of course, we'll continue to talk about it, that unless you really have to bet an NBA game, if you like betting basketball, kind of temper it a little bit, because it's so hard to pick any winners so far this season because of COVID, because of some situations that have been going on. And of course, it's near the end of the season. You don't know which teams are tanking or whatever. So we'll really get into it once we get into the playoffs, because then we know everybody's playing to win. Everybody's playing for real. Anyway, in Major League Baseball, the favorites did very well yesterday. They went 6-2. You only had two upsets. The Phillies, a plus 100 on the money line against the Brewers, and the Orioles were a plus 113 on the money line against the Mariners. The favorites increased their lead 224 to 195, and the overs went 5-3 after they went 13-2 on Saturday. But the unders, still, in spite of all this action, they're still ahead, little over 51%. That's Major League Baseball. We covered the NBA, the National Hockey League. So that kind of brings you up to date as far as the action from yesterday, last night, whatever it was, kind of give you an idea as to how the favorites are doing, how the dogs are doing, so that you can use that type of situational data in helping you to pick the right teams to bet. So just to give you an idea, we'll be looking at three teams in baseball for today. Once again, the Cubs against Cincinnati, the Braves against the Nationals, and the Rangers up against the Twins. Those are the games what we're going to look at when we come back from our first break. And of course, if you've listened to the show before, we take 3 breaks in the show. Each one is of about a minute and a half duration, and we come right back with our situations. So when we do come back, we'll look at those 3 games, chart them, see how the line movement is going, and see in which direction the pros are going as well. So we'll be back into the Sports Wagering Zone right after this. And welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo, coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Of course, some people are listening on some of our podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music Podcast. Those are the places where you can find us anytime. So we're going to take a look at 3 games on tap for today. We're going to see how the line movement is going. These are the 3 games that we feel are getting enough action from the pros that they warrant a closer look. Now, we're getting a lot of emails over the past couple of weeks from listeners who like to bet during the day, okay? And sometimes they haven't made up their minds as to who they want to bet on. And many times it's one of the three games that we're talking about for that particular day. But of course, if you're working during the day, because we're on a 12 noon Eastern time, if you're at work, you can't listen to the show, you don't know who it is that the pros are on for that particular day. And of course, the worst thing is that at the end of the day, you finally listen to the show and you say, oh, that's the one they liked. I went the other way. Okay. I would have bet that. Let's say we had the white. So, for instance, yesterday we had three plays yesterday, but one of them was postponed. So let's just say you were looking at the Milwaukee-Philadelphia game, and you're, leaning towards Milwaukee, but you weren't sure. Milwaukee, Philadelphia, either way. And then you wound up betting on Milwaukee. And then you heard the show later on, and you heard that the pros were on Philadelphia, and you're thinking, gee, if I would have known that then, I would have bet Philadelphia instead of Milwaukee. So that kind of gives you an idea as to what I'm talking about. And what we're going to try to do then is try to satisfy these listeners who like to do that. So we're working on some way to take care of that little bit of business. If you're interested in it, we'll give you an email address to send your information to. We'll try to help you guys out as well. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're looking forward to doing something like that so that you can find out who the pros are on earlier in the morning. We'll do it probably by email or something of that nature. So this way you'll have some extra information for you to work with. Anyway, in the meantime, but we'll have more about that later on as we go on and through the week. Tonight, 6:40 p.m., Chicago White Sox against the Cincinnati Reds. The White Sox are 15-12. The Reds are 13-14. Now, this is an interleague showdown. You got two teams that are coming off of opposite homestands. The White Sox just dropped 2 of 3 to the Indians, while the Reds won 2 of 3 against the Cubs. But in tonight's series opener, the White Sox start their righty, Dylan Cease. He's 1-0 with a 2.96 ERA, while the Reds, they counter with their righty, Jeff Hoffen. He's 2-1 with a 3.33 ERA. Now, as we look at the line, it opened with Chicago, a short -120 road favorite, and Cincinnati, a +110 home dog. Now, the public, they're all over the White Sox as they have, number one, they do have a better record. They're laying a short price. But you know what? In spite of all of that, we've seen Chicago drop down from being a -120 down to 115. So this signals that the pros have a reverse line movement on the Reds. The respected money, the pro money is grabbing the plus money with the home dog. Started out at +110, and of course, once they came in with their money, down to +100. That's the last we've seen. Now, the Reds have value because they're a dog coming off of a win. They're also a dog with a high total. Tonight's total is 9, and a contrarian home dog with a line move that's in their favor. And understand, sweet spot dogs, these are dogs that are +140 on the money line or less, are at almost 60%, but they've produced +16 units so far this year. 60% on these types of teams that are in that type of situation. So as far as the pros are concerned, in this particular game, they're very, very heavily in on Chicago. So here we go on the Reds. I'm sorry, we're on the Reds on this one. White Sox public is on. The Reds, the pros are on. It's kind of right in between. It's a toss-up. Some people are going to be tossing a coin later on today before they make their bet to try to decide which team they want. Meanwhile, at 7:05, the Braves and the Nationals. The Braves are 12-16. The Nationals are 12-12. Now, these are National League East teams. And if you take a look at the records, they're trending in opposite directions. 12-16 with Atlanta. 12-12. They're at 500 with Washington. The Braves have lost 4 straight games. They just got swept by Toronto So, meanwhile, the Nats, they've really started coming on strong now. They've won 4 straight, and they just swept the Marlins at home. But in tonight's opener, the Braves give the ball to Huascar Yanoa. He's 2-1 with a 2.96 ERA. And the Nationals, well, they come out with their righty, Joe Ross. He's 2-1 so far this season with a 4.64 ERA. And as we look at the line for this game, it opened with the Braves as a minus 125 road favorite on the money line, and the Nats a plus 115 home dog. Now, of course, the public, they're all over the Nationals. They're getting plus money at home as a team that's playing better than the other team they're playing against, right? However, the pros in this situation, I think they kind of we call smelling a rat, okay? If the Braves are the worst team, then why are they favored? You have to answer that question to yourself. What's going on? The pros in this situation, I think they kind of smell a rat coming up. Despite a majority of bets that are on the Nats, we've seen the line move toward Atlanta, going from minus 125 to minus 130. This means that there's a sharp contrarian favorite action on the Braves, with the pros fading the trendy Nationals. So in this game, the pros are on the Braves against the Nats. Meanwhile, at 7:40 p.m., the Texas Rangers and the Minnesota Twins. The Twins took care of business last night's opener. They beat the Rangers 6-5. They were a heavy minus 175 home favorites. We talked about this game yesterday. It was one of our selected games, and we told you if you like this game, you're going to have to lay some heavy wood. Now, in tonight's rematch, the Rangers give the ball to their veteran righty, Kyle Gibson. He's 3-0. He's undefeated this season with a 2.16 ERA, and the Twins come in with their lefty, J.A. Happ, who's also undefeated at 2-0. With a 1.96 ERA. Now, as we look at the line on this game, it opened with Minnesota. They were a minus 145 home favorite. Texas opened as a plus 125 dog. Now, the pro money, once again, they're not scared off by the expensive price, and they've really gotten down on the Twins once again, like they did yesterday, pushing the line up from 145 up to minus 155 on the money line. Now, home teams that are in these non-divisional games with at least a 10-cent move of steam in their favor are at 61% so far this season. Now, non-division favorites in the sweet spot of minus 150 to minus 175, they're up at 74%, actually a little more than 74% so far this year. The Twins fit into these categories. They also have value. They're a favorite with the low total of 8. And remember, historically, low totals always benefit the favorites because they're thinking there's going to be a fewer amount of expected runs scored, and they're more likely, if there's going to be more runs scored, more than likely it'll come from the better team. In this situation, it would be the Twins or the home team. So that's the story on the 3 games for tonight. Once again, just to recap them real quickly. Chicago against Cincinnati. The pros are on Cincinnati. The Braves and the Nats, they're on the Braves. And against the Rangers and the Twins, once again, the pros are on the Twins. Now, just recapping yesterday's results. We actually started out with 3 plays, but the Dodgers-Cubs game was postponed. So, Milwaukee against Philadelphia. We had Philadelphia, and of course, that was a win. And then we had the Blue Jays against Oakland, and Oakland was the team to bet. And of course, they won as well. So that's the story there as far as that's concerned. And so far this season, up to date, coming up to yesterday, we had 87 plays altogether. We had 50 wins, 36 losses. You're at 57 0.4% with this little method. Now, once again, we talked about this just before we started giving you the 3 games. We're looking into somehow working out a situation where you guys who, you get up in the morning, you're doing your homework, you're getting ready to make your bets because you have to go to work or you're not going to be available during the day. So you don't hear who it is that we are recommending as far as which way the pros are going. Okay. And then all of a sudden that night you hear it and you say, wow, if I would have known that, I would have bet that game. Okay. So for you guys out there that are in that type of situation, or maybe you just want to know about who it is before we go on the air because you want to do some more homework with whatever you're doing. We're looking into doing something about it. We're trying to come up with a system, a method that we can get the information to you via an email or something of that nature so you can have this information at hand. If you have any interest in this whatsoever, if you are one of those that interested, just send us an email. Send it to the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. That's the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. Be happy to hear from you if you're interested in it. If, we'll kind of keep in touch with you, kind of let you know what's going on, and hopefully we can work something out and work out something that makes everybody happy, you and me as well. But we're working on it. We hear what you're saying, and we're going to do our best to try to accommodate the guys who really can't listen to the show later in the day before they make their bets. So anyway, that's the story. We talked about the 3 games. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at some futures bets, some of our thoughts on some of the futures situations in Major League Baseball. So let's take our break, and once again, we'll be back right after this. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo, coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. And also, we talked about our email address. Even if you're not interested in what we just got finished talking about, perhaps you have a question. Maybe you have an idea or a thought about the way we do the show, for instance. We've been doing the show for almost 5 years. Over 5 years now. And of course, we're in a bubble here. We kind of feel, hey, everything's going fine. We're picking up more listeners every day, and we're going along. So I guess what we're doing is okay. But if there's something that might help it to make it more interesting for you, kind of just let us know. Either, maybe we talk too much about certain things. Maybe we don't talk about other things as much as we should be, according to your thinking on it. So just send us that email. It's the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. The Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. We answer all our requests. We answer all of our emails. We want to keep in touch with you as much as we can. So as we approach this 1 month marker here in the Major League Baseball season, a lot of questions are being asked, and lot more being asked and being answered, actually, in a schedule that a lot of people thought might be affected by COVID-19, okay, and the COVID-19 protocols. But it really hasn't been that bad. Will the league-wide offense and that offense ramp up to a more expected level? That's the question. Will the league-wide offense, the offense throughout the league, is it ramped up to a more expected level when the weather gets better? Do you think that's a possibility? Or you ask yourself the question, which Cy Young Award candidate is going to get to the front? When will Yerman Mercedes come down to earth? That's another question. So after about 20 to 25 games, it's a perfect point to kind of take a step back, assess the numbers, because though the sample is small, okay, it's a robust enough situation to make several season-long judgments. And here's how we kind of see them. The Red Sox at 20 to 1 to win the World Series. They're at 10 to 1 to win the American League pennant, and they're at plus 250 to win the American League East. Now, these numbers are courtesy of DraftKings. The Red Sox had as many unanswered questions as any team in the major leagues coming into this season, including the bounce-back potential of J.D. Martinez. Now, the pitching staff is largely done better than expected. They've overperformed. There's no doubt about it, allowing 99 runs with a plus-minus 20 run differential. But the offense has been the backbone of these East League leaders, okay? That includes MLB leading 199 runs scored, a .279 team batting average, a .460 slugging percentage, and a .798 OPS. Now, although Martinez looks to be back to his near MVP level, Xander Bogaerts was quietly second in Major League Baseball with 30 hits, with Rafael Devers and Alex Verdugo each posting an ops north of 900, over 900. The Major League Baseball average was 740 in 2020. Now, the Red Sox starting pitching, that's where the question comes up. That might be suspect, but with no timetable as to when Chris Sale will come back, the pressure is going to be on their newcomers, Nick Pivetta and Garrett Richards, expecting them to hold down the back end of the rotation until after the All-Star break. So the Red Sox will be under pressure because the Blue Jays, they should return to nearly full health by the beginning of May, like they certainly have so far. And the Yankees, well, eventually they're going to understand and realize that you have to get some wins during the regular season in order to make the playoffs. So we're saying keep an eye on the Red Sox futures. Once again, you're looking at 20 to 1 to win the series, 10 to 1 to win the American League pennant, and plus 250 to win the American League East. And again, those numbers are at DraftKings. They could be slightly different if DraftKings is not in your particular area. We're also looking at the Reds. They're at 25 to 1 to win the World Series. They're 15 to 1 to win the National League pennant, and they're plus 325 to win the National League Central. And again, those numbers are out of DraftKings. Now, after one of the most disappointing playoff exits of any team, okay, that was in the 2020 season, the Reds opened this year with really mixed expectations. No one was certain what was going to happen. But optimism has really given that uncertain nature in this particular Central Division team. The Reds have hit an almost league best rate, posting the second best team ops at 774, second best runs scored at 119, and they lead the major leagues in 33 home runs. Now, the main knock has been Cincinnati's performance away from the bandbox that is a great American ballpark. Now, though the Reds led all the clubs in run differential at home at a minus 29, they ranked among the bottom 7 on the road at minus 18. Now, this could be solved by adding a strong Sonny Gray into the formula. If he can come back to his 2019 All Star form, things could definitely heat up. If the Reds starting pitching and their shaky front end of the bullpen can perform at even league average levels for the rest of the way, okay, they should be a playoff team. And I would strongly consider a Reds National League Central futures ticket at the very least. So Reds at 25 to 1 to win the World Series, 15 to 1 to win the National League pennant, and plus 325 to win the National League Central. And before that, we talked about the Red Sox, 20 to 1 to win the World Series, 10 to 1 to win the American League pennant, and plus 250 to win the American League East. And like I said, those numbers are out of DraftKings. So if you don't have DraftKings in your particular area or the state that you're doing business in, take a look, and those numbers may vary slightly. They may be better or they may be a little worse, maybe down or up, depending on what your particular situation is going to be in that area. Again, you're going to get a different number in Cincinnati, okay, than you will in Colorado, let's say, or maybe New York or Boston. Let's look at it that way too, you know. So wherever you are, check those numbers, because understand something. Whenever we here at the show talk about lines, talking about numbers and things of that nature, our primary interest comes out of Las Vegas. We get the numbers out of Vegas, out of the casinos, out of the sports books there, and that's the numbers that we deal with, understanding that they're different. You have 27 states that are participating. You could have 27 different situations. It's kind of strange to look at, but I seriously doubt it. But you're going to be different. You know, some are going to be off by a half a point, maybe a point. Not going to be much of a difference, because regardless of what anybody says, Las Vegas is still the hub. That's the place where most things start happening, and then it kind of disseminated from that point on. So that's the story. Keep that in mind. Whatever numbers we talk about, always check with your local sports books. And always keep in mind also, you have to have more than one sports book. You need to be dealing with a minimum of two sports books. Three sports books would be fine. If you have three different sports books in your area, by all means, you should have an account with all three. Mainly because the lines may change. You may get a half a point difference, whether you're betting on a favorite or an underdog, whatever it is. You may get a better line by going to one of the other places as opposed to just going to one sports book to deal with. So just keep that in mind. Very, very important, because if you take a look at it, and it's going to happen, you're going to be looking at it and you say, no, I like DraftKings, so I'm going to stay with DraftKings. I'm going to bet them. And then the next thing you know, the game that you bet that day was a half point difference from the other ones. And that's the way it went. So you wound up being a loser, whereas the other way you could have been a winner, or maybe you would have had a push on that particular game. So that's the way you have to look at it, okay? So let's take our final break, and when we come back, we'll recap once again the three games on tap for tonight. We're going to see how the line movement is going, as well as in which direction the pros are going as well. So we'll be back into the sports wagering zone in just 60 seconds. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. You're in the zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're here in Charlotte, North Carolina, coming to you on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Also podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, you name it, we're there. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, on Saturdays and Sundays, we're on at 11 a.m. Eastern Time as well. So I want to thank you very much for listening. And of course, let's just run down the three games we have on tap for tonight. We got Chicago against Cincinnati, the Cubs and the Reds. The pros are on the Reds in this game. As far as the Braves and the Nats are concerned, the pros are on the Braves as well as the analytics. And the Rangers against the Twins, the pros in this one are on the Twins. So those are the three selections, the direction that the line movement is going, and the line movement is going in a certain direction that is very close to the direction that the pros are going. So those are their selections, not ours. We're just bringing you that information. You use it any way you want. You could take it in and say, look, I'm going to make it part of the system that I have. I have a good system. I love it. I'm doing very well with it. And this is what I want to do. But there's always, you come into a couple of games where it's a toss-up. And perhaps knowing that the pros are going in a certain direction may urge you to go in that direction as well and do as well there, too. So it's up to you. You do it that way, or you can just follow them right down the line. They average somewhere around 60%, but keep in mind, averaging 60, you're still losing 40. So over the long run, okay, betting and gambling is not a sprint. You can win one or two games in a row. You can win 1 week in a row. It's okay. All right. 2 weeks in a row. But eventually, it's going to come to an end and it's going to go in the other direction. It'll always adjust to a mean standard. And of course, that's what we're trying to do. Try to help you to become a better handicapper and understand that there are trends. They happen. They're losing trends. You'll have losing streaks. They happen all the time. But if you can stay ahead, especially when you're talking about basketball and football, okay, whether it's college or pro, you're talking about being 52.3, 52.4% in the win column. Otherwise, you're losing money. That's the break-even point. So that's the story as far as that is concerned. Once again, thank you very much for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern Time. And if you want to get a hold of us once again, just send that email. Send it to the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. That's the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. If you're going to bet today or tonight, I hope you have the best of luck, but also have a really pleasant Tuesday afternoon and evening. And of course, the best of both worlds is to have not only a pleasant day, but a profitable one as well. So thanks for listening again. We'll be back again tomorrow. The I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network and most of your podcast platforms as well. So until tomorrow at 12 noon, I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you for listening and have a very pleasant and even more so a profitable day. Goodbye, everybody.